Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar with our very special guest, Lea Turner. And what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about how to build thriving communities of clients and professional connections. I'm really delighted to have Lea with us today and looking forward to a fabulous session. Lea is the director of the Halt and is a former LinkedIn trainer, an expert community builder with over 200,000 followers across social media. So delighted to have you here today, Lea. Let's start though with usual introduction from you, Dan, if that's okay, about how we do things here.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So welcome to today's session. So what do we all need to know? Well, we've got a special guest with us here today. So make sure you all get involved as much as humanly possible. Leah's going to help us build a community today. And with community comes conversation. So your microphones and cameras are not on, but you can still talk to us. So you can send us a comment in through the chat box. You can use the Q&A system and have your say. So ask questions about the things that Phil and Lea are discussing. Tell us you agree, or even better, tell us you disagree. Yardstick webinars are famously a safe space, and we've made them a safe space since we began them many years ago. So we're all here to learn, so make the most of the hour. I know I'm certainly going to be. So Phil's going to lead with his own questions for Lea, but I'll be sweeping up comments and questions at regular intervals. So for those of you that submitted a question in advance to put forward, thanks for those. I've got them all here with me, so I'll be reading them out as we go. And let me answer a question that we often get right at the start. Yes, we are recording today's session. So a video is going to be sent out along with a summary of any links or resources we mention. And of course, we've got the real hero of the webinar, Abby Robinson, to thank for that. So a big thank you to her as ever for making sure that lands in your inbox as soon as possible. Now, enough of me. Let's have some of Phil and Lea, shall we? Over to you.
Yes, Dan. I think we first need to admire the attention to detail behind your left shoulder, Lea, the way the mugs are set up and the color coding of the books. I think that's fabulous.
And the sign as well that you can't. It's all backwards, unfortunately, but yeah.
No, it looks good to us.
Quite in shot. My monitor's a little bit closer than usual.
No, it's all the right way around for us. So give us a bit, talking of backgrounds, tell us a bit about your background. Your journey to this point of focusing on building communities, what the Halt is, why we've got a capital H, L and T and not O. Just give us the background to you, Lea, if you would.
Okay, so I started my first business when I was 26, working for building consultants. And I decided I wanted to, well, I was drunk on a beach in Thailand and decided I needed to come back and do more traveling, but I was skint. And so I decided to start a business, and my business was transcribing. I used to type audio, which is a good job I left it because AI now would have stolen my job. And I did that for nearly 10 years, including when I had my son. So I'm a solo parent and my son's nearly 10 now. And in 2019, I was looking for more clients. I stumbled onto LinkedIn, absolutely hated it, and didn't really have many other options to find more clients. So I started using LinkedIn, but I found it horribly dry and boring. So I did it a bit differently. I just made it fun for myself and didn't really care what people thought, and just started telling my story. And it quickly got a lot of followers, which resulted in loads of people saying, I want to work with you, because I was quite clear about the transcription that I did. I had lots of building surveyors, lots of doctors coming to me wanting to work with me. But I was getting so many clients, people were saying to me, well, how are you doing this on LinkedIn? How are you getting all these followers? How are you getting all these clients? Because I had like 100 in 3 months, grown my team. And then COVID hit, and I didn't have any clients to generate work because they couldn't see their own clients. So I dipped my toe into LinkedIn training, and it was really popular, really successful, very fast. And I went from being a solo mum on government support that could barely make ends meet to making my first 6 figures in 10 months, which I then continued, and I did that for a couple of years before launching the community. And the community came about because of my LinkedIn training, because I was working with all these business owners that I could teach how to do LinkedIn, but there was so much else missing because it takes a long time to nurture relationships on LinkedIn. You're relying on algorithms to show you content to people regularly. So they didn't have a marketing funnel, they didn't have email lists set up, they didn't have a decent website or lead magnets. And so I realized I know all these people that teach this stuff. A lot of them have been my clients, a lot of them were supporters, a lot of them wanted something from me because I had this huge audience. So I decided to start talking to them about whether they would be interested in hosting something for a community. If I set it up, would they be interested in teaching small business owners how to do the things that they teach, but obviously for a lot less than they would charge for one of their own coaching programs? And loads of them said yes. So I started a waiting list, started talking about this community, and in June 2022 I launched it. We sold the first 100 spaces in 4 hours and then shut the doors. We sold the next 50 places 2 months later, and there was theory behind that because I wanted to make sure we ironed out any issues for the first couple of months, improved what needed to be improving, and then we launched it again. We're now at just over 500 members who all pay monthly or annually, and there's no tiers. It's all equal. And we've done parties, we've done in-person meetups, and it's a whole lot more than just masterclasses now. The name I agonized over for ages, but it actually stands for the House of LT. And the thought process behind that was I just didn't want my name in it in case such time comes that I decide to exit it or it becomes bigger than me. That comes from the LGBTQ plus community. So back in the 70s, 80s and 90s, in the ballroom culture in New York City, where transgender, gay and transvestite people were absolutely excommunicated from mainstream society, they were outcast, and they would create these houses. So they'd have a house mother, and then a group of them would come together. A lot of them would live together, and they would do create these amazing outfits and do these like dance catwalks in the clubs in New York. And they would all look after each other, and the house mother would sort of oversee it all, deal with any arguments, deal with any conflict, protect them, look after them. And I quite liked the idea of being a house mother to people. And one of the things that our community promotes is inclusivity and belonging. And we attract a lot of the people that don't really feel like they've ever belonged in the business world, or that it feels uncomfortable to them. We also attract, lots of other people, but we advertise it as a very safe place. And it's very non-judgmental, it's incredibly inclusive, and it just suited the vibe that I wanted, as well as honouring the LGBTQ plus community in doing so. So that's where the name came from.
That's a very cool story.
Yeah.
And over the past 3 or 4 years, I'm sure you've had your ups and downs, and I've seen other people try and create communities, and it's hard work to create a community and maintain its momentum. And you've got to pay the bills. So what's the business case? Because the majority of people on this call are financial advisors, financial planners, mortgage brokers. And we were talking just before we came live about the working with a financial advisor. What's the business case for the people on this call building a community?
It depends what kind of community that you're building. So there's lots of communities where it's peer-to-peer support. So you'll have communities of lawyers, communities of accountants, where they are hive-minding ideas, helping each other out, drawing from each other's experience, collaborating over competing, referring customers to each other when they can't manage it, especially if they're specialists, because we all know when you're a specialist in something, you often get other inquiries for things that you're not a specialist in, and having other trusted people that will do a good job sort of under your name is really, really beneficial. But I think the overall benefit of having any kind of community is that you can accelerate the trust that's built between you as the leader and the people within the community, because you get to know each other a lot better. You feel safer to talk a little bit more openly because it's not on social media, it's not living forever in the public eye, and it allows you to have those sort of private communications. And you also know instantly that the people attracted to that community have got some sort of shared values with you. You've already got something in common. So that gives you a foundation to start that relationship on, rather than just like approaching a total stranger on social media that you don't know if you have got those shared values, those shared interests. So I think when people come into a community, that is like a peer-to-peer support. They're looking for support and they're looking to offer support. So you already know they're coming in for the right reasons and the same reasons as you are. So you sort of you skip over that awkward introduction and straight away you've got something in common. So I think that really, really works.
Accelerating trust point's a really interesting one, because traditionally, one of the challenges financial advice, financial planning has had is gaining people's trust. It's a profession that has notoriously struggled, unfortunately, to be seen as a trustworthy profession. That's an interesting point. And if we've got the business case now, what does a community look like? Because it feels like a really kind of nebulous thing, hard to pin down. What does a community look like? Is it online? Is it offline? So let's just start with as Mr. Cynic says, let's start with the why, start with the end in mind. And just talk about, what does a community look like? Is it online? Is it offline? Is it physical events, mixture of both? Just try and paint a picture of what a community looks like.
I think there's very different types of communities when it comes to especially the online space, but you've got community everywhere. Your neighborhood is part of your community. If you know your neighbors, the people in your local Facebook group who you might not know to meet, but if you've got a problem, they might pop up and offer support. Community is a group of people that are there to support one another in some sense. So I think that's the sort of overarching definition of it. And back in the olden days, when the only people we ever knew were the people that lived in our immediate vicinity, you'd have a single grocer, a single baker, a farmer that brought the veg, the butcher, and they would all help each other out. Like, it's very different these days because there are thousands of everything and there's so much choice. So I think community has now evolved to be places where people who have something that's shared, a shared interest, a shared values, shared goals, they gravitate together, especially in the online space. And I think we lost community a lot during COVID, that face-to-face community. And for a long while, we were all quite comfortable living in our little online worlds and not meeting people face-to-face because we got a little bit too used to our isolation. Whereas I think people now are craving more face-to-face interactions. People want to have meetings over coffee in person. People want to go to networking events now. So it is evolving back into the real world. But I think overall, the broad definition of community is people with shared interests in something that want to help each other. I think that does get muddied a lot because the word community is bandied around a lot on LinkedIn. And I think there's quite a strong definition between what a community is and what a membership is, because a membership will generally be a place where, say, a founder will have a free membership. And in that membership, you can also buy their services. There are upsells that you can pay for. And the relationship very much is the founder and the members individually, like me as the founder and each individual member. Whereas a community, for me, is about fostering the relationships between each other. And for me, I'm just like the conductor at the front of the orchestra. It's not about me. I'm there to make sure everybody else is working harmoniously together. So I think that's but people will use the word community when actually they mean a membership.
Right, okay. And I think, so the majority of people on here are financial advisors, financial planners, and mortgage brokers.
Mm-hmm.
And also some representatives of organisations that supply services to advisors, planners, and mortgage brokers. And they will, I think, in a large part, but if I'm wrong, put something in the chat, please, everybody. But I think their aim here is to build community rather than membership.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wrong, then stick something in the chat, everybody. And the common thread here is, if we just look at advisors and planners, the common thread is that they've all got clients,
mm-hmm.
that they're at the centre, and then they've got clients around them. But those clients don't necessarily know each other. There might be some connections where client A is referred to client B, but the majority of clients of a financial advice or planning practice don't necessarily know each other. So what are the practical things that the advisors, planners, and mortgage brokers on the call can do to take those one-to-one relationships between the advisor and the planner and turn those clients into a community of clients? What are the key things that they could be doing?
I think the things that work for us best, so we run our community on an app called Heartbeat. And if anybody's looking for a great app to run a community on, I highly recommend it. I have a referral code if anyone wants it. It's sensational. It has chat rooms or sort of chat threads. You can have either a chat room or a chat thread. And one of the things that we do is weekly, we have questions scheduled. And some of them are serious and some of them are a bit playful. And we will have those questions go out every Monday. And they, like last week, it was, have you ever had a paranormal experience? And so you've got people answering this thread, and they're finding different comments that other people have left, and they've gone, oh my God, I went through that too. I had that too. And suddenly two strangers are finding a shared experience. Or we've had, I think last week it was, if you had a wild animal as a pet, what would you have? And we've just like gone through, and my weird brain has gone through and created, some of them are like, what was your first business? Some of them were, why did you start your business? You know, we've got a mixture of questions, but people find those commonalities. And they're just answering a simple question where we're asking them about themselves, and we all love to talk about ourselves. It's our number one subject that we know the best. So it's easy talking points that are created for people where they're finding little commonalities, and then you feel that little connection. So we have things like that that help people to loosen up and get to know one another. And then we also have community calls, and I do annual parties, big Christmas parties, where it's not about swapping business cards. We call it networking so that they can write it off with the tax man. But it's very much a party. They've all got a glass of champagne in their hands. They're all wearing sparkles, and they go in there to get to know people on a friendship basis. And I think when you start with fun and friendship and not being too serious, it makes people relax. And when people relax and have fun, they find connection a lot easier when they don't feel like they're putting on a mask and they're there to impress people. I think it's also really important to make sure that the place feels safe. So we do that by enforcing our rules with an iron fist. This is why I have my no knobs policy, because anyone who thinks, oh, you know what, I might be a bit of an arse, they are not attracted to the vibe, because they think, yeah, she's not going to like me. Like I'm quite a brash person. I'm rude. I've been told that I'm offensive. Like this isn't going to be the right place for me. Where the people with open hearts and kindness are attracted to it, and they're comfortable being vulnerable, because they know without question that I will kick somebody out if they violate our rules or make someone feel uncomfortable. And I think that needs to be conveyed in your marketing. And I do it. Like if I kick someone out, while I won't say who it was, I will talk openly about the reason, and I will post in the community saying this, a person has been removed. This is why they've been removed. Your protecting you is more important to me than making money from that person, because one really unpleasant person in a community that dominates the conversations, that takes over things, that is rude to people, that is just inconsiderate, it can ruin a whole community. So it's always putting people's experience in front of how much money you're making. For me, that's what makes people feel safe. And the feedback we often get when we ask people is how safe and inclusive it feels, not making people feel stupid for asking a question that might feel quite basic, you know, always being responsive. And I think the key thing for keeping a community engaged is whoever starts that community needs to be in it. It's not just a little side hustle that you make, that you spend 10 minutes a day engaging with. If people see you leading from the front and getting involved because you're why they've joined, they are much more likely to want to involve themselves as well.
I think that's a really good point. It sounds as though the people on this call, the advisors, planners, and people who supply those services, should only do this if they're prepared to be present in the community for the long term.
Yeah, Alexa off. Sorry, Alexa's shouting reminders at me. There are a lot of people that start a community and they get all excited about it. They put loads of effort into it and they don't check that there's actual interest in the community. They just go, oh, I'm going to start a community. I've got 250 followers on LinkedIn, 250 people will join me. It's not going to work like that. Trying to get people to actually pay money, especially for something, you have to be creating something that gives them value, because they're paying a monthly subscription, hopefully, to be part of this. There are, people's expectations of a free community can be a lot less, but I find that you'd be surprised how much people often expect from a community, even when it's low priced. So you need to really think about how committed you are and what it's going to take for you to give that commitment. So I always say to people when I'm consulting about communities is you need to think about how much you want to charge, how much they're going to get for that, and how much time you have available, and then work out what your minimum number of members is to make this a financial incentive. So for me, when I had 100 people sign up immediately, that was £5,000 a month in my bank. That was enough to motivate me to spend a couple of hours a day working on the community alongside my LinkedIn training. The more members we got, the more financially motivated I was, the more I expanded my team and eventually gave up LinkedIn training to do this full time. So I think you need to figure out, if you're going to charge, £20 a month for it and you're only getting in 40 members, that's not going to be enough to really motivate you. You'll lose your enthusiasm, and it's hard to get people into memberships. Don't underestimate that. The churn rate on members is high. We've got a low churn rate, a very low churn rate for communities comparatively, but we will still lose up to 50 members in a month. We'll get more, but we have months where we will lose up to, like, the usual month is no more than 10, which is low. But when you're thinking about, if you only have, say, 50, 60 people in your community, that's going to feel like a big hit. And communities are the first things people stop paying for when things get tight, because it's a luxury rather than a necessity, or that's how they see it. So I think you've really got to work out how many people you're going to need to make it financially viable, what you need to include in that community to make it worth people paying that, and actually spending more time on their phones, because we spend a lot of time with a device in our hands or in front of us. You need to really give them a good reason to spend more time on a device, more time talking to people, because most of us want to put those things down in the evening and switch off. So yeah, you've got to really, really have a good plan mapped out, and don't think just because you've got the plan mapped out that your community will stay looking the way it does when you start. You have to evolve with what people want, and that's why you need to be in the membership so much. So you need to pay attention to what people want. How are people using it? Why are they leaving? Why are they signing up? Having those conversations with people, seeing what people are saying about it online, finding out what they're saying about it behind your back, because that will all help to shape what you evolve into, because your first iteration will not be the final iteration. You've got to be flexible.
Yeah, I can see that. And it would be useful for anybody attending the webinar to maybe pop in the chat what your plans are with community. If you are thinking that this webinar today is going to be the sort of launch point for a community where you've learned and can then go off and build, what are you planning on doing? Are you building community for existing clients where you won't charge a membership fee and it's an added benefit of being a client of Henwood Court? I can see Nick's here. So is it an idea to build a community where it's an added value, or is it a membership that you want to charge for? Jacob's mentioned earlier in the chat that it's a membership that he wants to charge for. So what are you doing here? Is it a free community for your clients, something to add value, or is it a paid for membership? Stick something in the chat. Lea, I just want to go back to something you said earlier. What's the name of the platform? Was it Heartbeat?
Heartbeat, yeah.
Heartbeat. So yeah, if you could send that that code to Abby, and we can stick it in the follow-up.
About $500 a year, and then you can pay, I think it's an extra $12 a month for the additional support package from Heartbeat themselves. But it's a great platform because they listen to their users, they take the feedback, and then they evolve the platform based on the people who are using it and what they need, which I really, really love.
And why did you choose to build there rather than, say, Facebook, where people are on a regular basis, or I don't know, school or something like that? Why did you choose that particular platform?
We chose it, and one of the things that our members really love about it is because it's not on a social media platform. So it's away from everything else. So it doesn't matter if they prefer LinkedIn groups, just forget about them. They're utterly rubbish. Facebook groups, I don't spend much time on Facebook. I try to avoid spending time on Facebook. And actually, I feel more like I'm doing something beneficial because I get that sense of, oh, I'm probably wasting time. I probably shouldn't be on social media, and I don't really want to be scrolling it in the evening. But whereas if I log on to the app, I'm thinking, well, no, I'm helping people here. I'm having conversations with my members. I'm getting to know people in this private space, and I'm not distracted by all the other notifications from other places all the time. I'm being intentional with my use of the app. It also is so much better than Facebook when it comes to keeping in contact with your members, because it allows you to like tag members into groups. So for example, we've got a load of people that have joined that are virtual assistants. So they're all tagged as they come into the community as virtual assistants. And then if an opportunity for a virtual assistant comes in or a question that's specific, we can tag the whole group. We can also arrange automated workflows that go out to people via email, DM, and pop-ups that come up. So we can celebrate an anniversary, we can advertise a new feature via pop-ups, which we can automate and schedule regularly. We can check in on members if they haven't logged in for a week. We can send an automated email flow that says, hey, we haven't seen you for a week. Is everything okay? Is there anything we can help with? And things like Circle and Heartbeat allow that. And it's just very user-friendly, like really user-friendly. We can store all of the videos because we host masterclasses from experts 4 times a month. And we also allow members to host their own masterclass to share their expertise with the group. And we record all of those and have them kept in a library that is searchable. So if you go, hey, I want to learn about lead generation, you can pop it in the search bar and it will pop up the different options that we've got on lead generation. So it's so much easier to have it separately and super organized with all the automation options that something like Heartbeat offers. And you can make it look how you want. You can change all the colors, you can change all the headings and the graphics that are available. So yeah, it's really good. If you want to see behind the scenes, let me know, because I'll show you. I can screen share and show you what it looks like behind the scenes if you're interested in that.
Yeah, if anybody wants to see that, then put something in the chat or the Q&A and we'll certainly do that. Do you find there's any friction by the fact that somebody's got to download another app compared to the fact that they've already got Facebook on their phone, or is that just not a problem?
It's not something we've ever heard. We had one lady that left and said she didn't really understand the app and she would have preferred it as a Facebook group. That's one person out of well over 1,000 members we've had through the gates now. So, and she was not trying to sound ageist, but she was probably in her early 60s, and just we have people in their 60s in our community that have zero issues with using Heartbeat, but I think it might have been more of a generational thing and the resistance to change. And there's no way I'd be hosting it on Facebook because I try and spend as little time as possible on there.
Thank you. That makes perfect sense. We've talked a lot about the platform and the Halt. Now seems to be the perfect time to do spend a couple of minutes. I'm going to share the screen again, just talking about the Halt. So do you want to just talk about what it is, Leah, what you offer?
Yeah, it's funny because I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago called the Big Festoon in Bolton, and a lady who was interested in the membership came up to me and she talked to me a little bit about it, and I told her about it, and then she went away and joined. She came in and she said, what the hell? You did not tell me all of this was in here. This is so much more. You completely undersold it, because I'm not very good at talking about it because I guess I'm so used to it. But when you come into the Halt, you will get a welcome video that explains to you exactly how everything works and where everything is, and says, you know, message me if you've got any problems with it. Every week we have an expert masterclass. It can be on anything from lead generation to a social media platform, to copywriting, to setting up your automations, to getting the best out of Calendly. Like, there is over 150 recordings in there, accessible immediately that you join. We also have a wellness circle every month with a wellness expert to help prioritize you. We have a LinkedIn clinic that I host doing a Q&A of everything. We have a tech expert who goes live every third Monday of the month and will fix your tech problems, any tech problem, so you don't have to pay an external service to do it. She'll do it live for you. We have sales clinics to help you improve your sales calls and your conversion rates. We have content and video clinics to help you improve your content creation. We get together every Friday for a community call, and we vary the times to support different time zones. And when I say the chat is busy, like, it's busy. It's really busy. There are people in the advice and questions thing. They'll ask a question and they'll get an immediate recommendation or help from another member, or a recommendation of who they need to speak to. And you know you're getting a trusted source, because these are people with shared values who wouldn't risk their reputation to recommend someone that isn't truly great. And it's basically just a shortcut. We get to know each other. We have so much fun in there. And I say that, and I know everyone's going to say it, but it genuinely is incredibly fun, incredibly supportive. Every answer to any business question you could possibly need, and so much more. So if anybody does want to join that's on this call, drop me a DM and you can skip the waiting list. We've got a waiting list of over 1,000 people, and we sell out in under 10 minutes every month. So if you're interested, even if you just want to come in and look around and understand it for your own benefit, when you start a community platform, you're more than welcome to join. Just literally drop me a message. But do check out the website as well, because it's great.
Thank you, Leah. That's perfect. Dan, let's do some questions that are coming through, if that's okay. And then come back to me when you've done, Dan, and we'll talk about the role of the founder in the community and how often you need to show up.
Sure thing. And it's an overwhelming yes. People would love to see the platform sort of behind the scenes. So if you could share your screen at some point, Leah, I think a lot of people would love to see what it looks like.
Now, if you'd like me to.
Yeah, I tell you what, let me ask a couple of questions and get a couple of answers first, and then we'll get into the screen share part, because we've got a few questions in. So Russell says, Leah, so many questions. Is your community specifically designed to support business owners? What are the other shared values you encourage as part of being the whole community?
So it's targeted at small business owners. However, we do have employees in there. A lot of them that are in there like work from home, and they just want the company of the community calls, the co-working times. So they're there for more the company and community element than the masterclasses. We've got a lot of people that have side hustles that are learning all of the things so that they go into full-time business with everything already set up. They already know how to make sales. They've got their website. They're learning everything ready. So we've got quite a lot of those, but it is specifically targeted at kind of lonely solopreneurs that want to learn, but want the company and the hive mind of all of these business owners. But we do welcome basically anyone that feels that they can benefit from it and is coming in with good intentions. The shared values, I think, honesty, integrity, trust, humor and fun. I think that's a really key one for so many of us. We just don't want to be taking business so seriously all the time. We want to help each other. And that sort of spirit of a rising tide lifts all ships, that really underpins everything that we do in the whole. And that shared support, like if you've got a problem, inevitably someone's going to hop on and go, hey, yeah, I can help with that. Do you want to jump on a call and we can talk it through? We've got people that charge thousands of pounds for their time, and they're just offering a quick 15-minute call with someone to help. So those are the real key values. But belonging and inclusivity, like we have a very zero tolerance on anything that is considered racist, homophobic, transphobic, ageist, like sexist. Like that does not happen in there. And if it ever did, they'd be removed immediately.
Wonderful, thank you. Sounds like a very wholesome place to be. I can see why you avoid a lot of social media for it and go
Wouldn't think
separately.
it to look at me, would you?
So a question here from Scott. Leah, what is the minimum number of people you think a community needs to be effective? Also, if you set up a community as part of your day job, what's the maximum number of people that you could handle before it becomes too big a task to manage?
That there are so many variables in that, because a community could just be 5 or 10 people. I think it needs to be based on what the goal of the community is, because you'll have people that run like an 8-week training program, and then that community of people continue to be their little community. So a community can really be any size. I think if it's to be effective, you're going to need at least 10 to 15 people. Otherwise, you're not going to have people present to have those conversations at the same times, and it's going to be a bit sparse. It needs to feel like a group. In terms of the set up a community as part of your day job, the maximum number of people, again, it's going to be really, really varied, because I've got members that literally message me every single day, and I've got members that don't message me for 6 months. I've got some members that have signed up and paying, but they only ever watch masterclasses and never come in the community. Some that only come in the community and don't watch masterclasses. So I think that's going to really depend on the type of support that you're offering and the people that sign up for that. Because if I find it tends to be the people with more money that want less hand holding, because they're busy and they're not like scrapping around for clients, where you've got the people who where my membership cost would feel like more of an investment per month. They tend to want more input from me, but that's fine, because we're there as a community to help them get to the point where they don't need as much input. So it balances out, but it really depends on their demands and the nature of the people that are joining. So I'm sorry, I can't be more specific on that.
No, that's great. Should we have one more question before you start showing us behind the scenes of the platform? Let's have a question.
If it helps as well, Scott, sorry. If it helps, once I got to 150 members, I brought in a community manager. That was my tipping point. But again, like, it is very dependent. But for me, that was my tipping point. And now I have 2 community managers.
Brilliant. Well, a community manager might be the answer to this question, but let's see how we go. Rachel asks, how do you keep up with the community and adding value while keeping sane? That's my fear in starting one.
I'm not sure I would count myself as sane, to be honest. I think having some good boundaries. So I turn the notifications off on my app when I'm not working. We do have WhatsApp groups for the local people to be able to communicate with each other. That phone, it hasn't got any data on it. It can only work when I'm at home. So I don't take it out with me, and I don't look at it when I'm not. It stays in my office. So I've created some boundaries like that. And also having a community manager really helps, because we've got a separate email address for the community. The community managers manage that. They will deal. I've also got a tech team now. So any tech problems, that's something that people really underestimate. And I say this with all the love, because I am literally just as bad. But the amount of people that I can't log in. Oh, that's not the email address that you use to log in. You're signed up with a different email address. Why am I getting all the emails twice? Why am I still getting the waiting list emails? Well, because you signed up to the waiting list with this email address, but you signed into the community with this, and our robots don't know it's the same person. So you can't underestimate the amount of tech glitches that happen that are sometimes your fault, but also very often user error. So that's the bit that probably used to drive me more insane, was trying to deal with all of those things, because I'm like, I'm so busy running my other business, I don't have time for all of these things. And it's such a simple thing, it used to irk me. But I bought in like tech support, and you can get those people on retainer. Like, it doesn't have to cost a lot. If you need recommendations, like my team work with loads of communities now since working with me, and they manage all the back end stuff, so I don't have to on payments have failed and all of that. That's also why things like automation are so great, because if someone's payment fails, you can have automated emails that go out showing them how to fix it themselves before a human has to get involved. Sometimes we still do, but it minimizes it. So I think it's having conversations with people who've done it, like me, who can sort of tell you all of these things that you could get set up in case it happens, to minimize the overwhelm on yourself. But yeah, once you get into the hundreds of members, you're going to need some kind of support, because trying to do that alongside a business and home life, and trying to have some semblance of a social life and hopefully get some sleep, yeah, sanity is not going to be held on to for too long.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. So I mean, Stephen, Samantha, and Wazim all mentioned that they'd love to see the actual platform with a screen share. So if you could just spend a few minutes just giving us a glimpse behind the scenes, that'd be
Yeah,
fantastic, Leah.
absolutely. Sharing is not turned on. Can you?
Okay, there we go. You should be able to share now. So like Dan says, if we spend a few minutes doing this, then I'll wrap up with a few other questions. I'd like to get to Russell's question as well, Dan.
Yeah, so this is the behind the scenes of Heartbeat. So we've changed the colors for our own branding, but you can see like the member list is down there. You get notifications of what's going on in the corner. So you get like alerts of what's coming up. We put all these events in the calendar so you can see this is all the upcoming stuff. So we've got all of these, and then you RSVP and it just puts it right into your calendar. So we've got loads of masterclasses coming up. When you go into the actual library, you've got all of these different masterclasses, and I mean, there's a lot of them. And then you've got the resource center as well, which allows you to like upload documents. So we've got like libraries of content ideas, masses of discounts, and then we've got links down here to recommend people to join the community. We call him Backdoor Barry. He's our fictional security guard. Merchandise and like a discount thing, which has got hundreds of discounts in for software and products. So you can see, and then we've got things like tips on how to use it. And then you've got chat channels that are like there's so much going on in these chat channels. And this is always the one that's the most busy, is you get like someone asks a question and you've got a whole bunch of members supporting each other and helping each other with responses to their questions. My personal one is the pets channel because that makes me happy. We've got rants, we've got wins, we've got gratitude, we've got a mental health support. So if someone's just having like a tough day, and then you've got like the back end, which is probably the most interesting bit, is where you can create all these automated workflows, and you've got all of like the analytics on people's behavior. So you can set up all of these automations that run when anything happens in the community, like pop-ups to say thank you for being such a valued member when they've been really active and left lots of comments, etc. So it's really, really brilliant. Like I can't explain how easy it's made it, because we originally started with hosting the masterclasses on Kajabi, and then we had the chat on Slack before. When it got to about 150 members, that was where my sanity was very much slipping, because Slack was just pure chaos with that many people. Whereas having the chat channels and the threads now has made it a lot more manageable to come back to things. So yeah, that's a little glimpse behind the scenes of how it works. And I'll send you that referral code if anybody does. You can get a free 7-day trial with Heartbeat, so you can try it out before committing.
Thanks, Leah. That's fabulous. I think the biggest community that's probably most well known in the financial services space is something called Live Talk, and it sits on a couple of platforms, Facebook and another one that I think sits on School. And it's run by a guy called Phil Calvert, and he's been doing it for donkey's years. And Phil's a great guy. A lot of people here will know him. And he spends time in the community. But everyone's got day jobs, wants a social life, would like some sleep, like you suggested. Probably want to see your kids from time to time as well. How much time do people who are thinking of starting a community need to commit to it to maintain its momentum, especially in the early days?
It's difficult to, I think it depends how many members you've got, and it also depends how much you're charging for it. So if you're doing a £5 a month membership, it's fairly low touch. You don't need to be there all the time. Like it's, people aren't going to be expecting that from you. I personally spend over an hour a day in the community, and I have done since the start. I type very quickly and I use voice to type, which makes things a lot quicker as well. But I think it is going to depend on how many members that you've got. If you've got, say, your first 100 members and they see you in the community, they feel like they're getting more value for money, and it keeps them coming back. If I know people that started a community, loaded it with resources, and then just sort of let people get on with it, and they'd show up once a week on a call, and they got really popular at first, and then everybody just started leaving because they're like, well, I joined so that I would have chance to speak to this person and get advice from them and get feedback from them, and I'm not getting that. So I don't feel like I'm getting value for money. So I think it depends on what you're selling if the weekly calls where it's a Q&A and advice is the main thing, then they're not going to expect you to be in there every single day for an hour. But you get that call with them and they answer all the questions in that 1 hour, or watch back the recording. So I think it really depends, but I think you need to want to spend time in there so that when you've got the opportunity, that's something that you choose to do. Because for me, when I've got a spare 10 minutes, I don't go necessarily and just scroll Instagram. I'll go and scroll the community. Is there anything else I can answer? Is there anything that I can help people with? So I think making it a place that you want to spend time is the key, because then it doesn't really feel like more work. It feels like you're doing something that's fun, that's also then building your future.
Yeah, if you don't enjoy it, you're going to be less likely to do it, aren't you? Yeah. Talking of enjoyment, we can't do a conversation about financial services marketing without compliance. How do you? You've obviously got your no dickhead policy, as you talk about on your website. Yeah, and that's one form of compliance, I guess. But clearly, in the regulated world, there are other compliance considerations. How do you? Any tips for advisors and planners on monitoring what goes in the group in a regulated sector? Is there anything that you can add in there?
I think so. Something that you can have in Heartbeat, I don't know about other communities, is when people join, you can have like a pop-up come up with your rules of play.
Yeah.
So I think having the expected behaviors and things that will not be tolerated or that might get them in trouble listed. So for example, I think, you're not allowed to give them specific financial advice and recommendations on social media as a financial advisor, but you can give like general overview of this would be something sensible that you could do. I'm not saying you should, but this could. So it's like specifying what can and cannot be discussed in the community, I think is quite important to sort of set those expectations from the get-go. Giving them an opportunity to, if they want the specific financial advice, pointing them to where they can get that, or can they book you for that, where you can give them personalized advice, give them a booking link so that they can pay extra or book some time where that's possible. So I think just setting expectations with people, and also politely but confidently reasserting those rules. So we have a rule in the Halt where people are not allowed to share their social media posts and ask for people to engage with them, because that's sort of engagement pod activity that I don't approve of, and it would also turn the community into absolute carnage if 500 people were saying, please comment on my post every day. So we don't allow that, and on the occasions that people have done it, I've deleted the post and just sent them a very polite but firm message saying, please don't do this. This is actually against the rules. Totally understand. We've just removed the post, but please understand that we can't do this, because then everyone will expect it and it will cause chaos in the community. And they're always really, really nice about it. And it doesn't upset anybody. So I think just having the confidence to just politely reinforce it when you need to, but setting people's expectations and making sure that it's covered in your marketing as well. Like it's on your website what is and isn't going to be okay to talk, and where those boundaries are going to be.
And over the time you've run Halt, if you were talking to the Lea that set Halt up now, what are the mistakes that you would tell her to avoid? What would you do different?
I would choose the right platform from the get-go. Sounds like I'm doing a massive Heartbeat ad now. The worst part was moving people from Kajabi and Slack over to Heartbeat, because at that point we had 350 members and they all had payments that needed switching over, and we couldn't do it for them. They needed to do it themselves. So it was a one-to-one conversation with 350 people to get them to change their payments over to the new platform. And it was long, and we had to close the community for a month or so while we did it, and it was very, very difficult. The other thing that I think I would have done from the start, we launched with a waiting list model, and then we opened the waiting list again for the second intake, but then we had the community open after that and just allowed people to come in whenever they wanted. And we noticed way more churn at that point than when we do it now with the waiting list model and the monthly launches, because people will just constantly trickle in and out. They'll join for a month, leave for a month, come back for a month, which causes no end of admin for us. So we switched it up to have a waiting list model where we do monthly launches. We can get people excited. We can talk about what's coming. 25 people come in. The team know we need to make the welcome graphics. I need to book the new members call and invite people to it. And we do all of that within a couple of days. So for the admin side of it, it's great, but it also means members know when to expect a little influx of people. And it's not just constant, like, oh, 10 people joined today, 3 people joined tomorrow, another 10 people left, because it becomes a little bit unmanageable. So those would be the two things. I would have stayed entirely on a waiting list model, and I would have chosen the right platform from the get-go, because that was messy.
Sounds painful.
Yeah.
Your waiting list point, Dan, let's do Russell's question. Russell's could put a couple of questions in. Let's do the first one first, if that makes sense, because that links to Leah's point about the waiting list.
Yeah, of course. So Russell's curious to know, to achieve the 100 paid community members, how many did you have on a waiting list? I'd love to understand a bit more about the ratios of people who are interested versus people who are actually prepared to pay.
Yeah, so when we launched, I think we had 550-ish people on the waiting list, and we sold it to the 100 people. However, I have a huge brand online, which I have been building trust with for 5.5 years. So that's far more than you would usually find. The average is about a 10% conversion. So if you work on that 500, it would be about 50 people, if you're lucky. But that doesn't mean you've got a waiting list and 50 people will convert. You need to nurture that waiting list. You need to get them excited. You need to have a proper launch that explains exactly how they can sign up, what the time slot is. Like, I have a proper email marketer now who's taught me a proper launch process, and you need to keep in touch with them. They don't, because they'll sign up to the waiting list, forget what it's about. So you need to be keeping in touch with them between waiting list arrival and them seeing the launch. They need to be constantly kept up to date. We're working on this. We're looking at a launch date of this. I'm really excited about this thing that we're going to be doing. This, when we do the launch, this is how it's going to be working. This is the options that you're going to have, so that they're ready with their credit card in their hand and they know exactly what they're getting and what they're signing up for and how to do it. And I think that's the process that I've seen lots of people do very wrong. They think, oh, they've joined the waiting list. I'll send them an email 2 weeks before, then I'll send them an email the week before, and then I'll send them an email to say we're launching. And then they wonder why only 16 people signed up out of 500-600 people on a waiting list. It's like, launches mean, like, in up to a launch, you want to be for the 10 days before or so, you want to be emailing them every day, which feels like a lot, but people who are really interested will open them. So yeah, don't have too long between when they join your waiting list and when you actually launch either. Like 6 months maximum, I would say.
Lots of really good tips there for Russell. Let's do Dan, Russell's last question, then Scott's. And that'll probably then take us to the point where Abby talks about our webinar next month.
Yeah, sure thing. So Russell says, one last question for me, live events. How many do you run? How regularly? And how do you charge?
So with the Christmas party, I get a sponsor. So we had 2 sponsors last year, and they get to speak at the event. So we do not charge members for that. We charge people outside the community. If we've got any tickets left, we sell those. And also if people want to bring like their partners along, but it's included as part of their membership price and covered by sponsors predominantly. With the in-person co-working stuff, we do co-working days. So we do one every month in Manchester. I'm going down to London for one on Friday. They're not, some of them are regular, some of them are a bit more sporadic, because we liaise with people when they're going to be available. And if I can come along, we don't charge for those either. We've got arrangements set up with places across the country where people can come and use their co-working space for free, sometimes restaurants, because then they get food and drink payments from us, and they're quiet during the day, so it's good for them. So we've got those all. So we don't charge for any of the in-person stuff unless we're going to do like a fun event. We did a pong and puck recently in karaoke, and then we just charge through a Stripe link to cover the cost of the tickets rather than to make any profit. That's how I do it. If I was doing it as a paid event, I'd be doing it through either like a Calendly thing or event site, Ticketweb, something like that. And then they arrange all like the payments and everything. You just have an event page. That would be how I would do it if I was charging for them.
And pong and puck is
Yeah, oh, it's like a shuffleboard and ping pong night. So a group of us went and had pizza and played ping pong together. We do fun things like that. We went, if you're in London, BAM Karaoke Box, they do a drag queen karaoke on a Thursday, and 20 of us went and did karaoke. And I'm not even a karaoke person, and I don't drink, but I was getting well in with my Bonnie Tyler anyway.
Brilliant. And then let's have a question from Scott. Now, this is on the back of you talking about throwing people out of the community if you have to. And you mentioned Backdoor Barry, the security guard that will do the same. So Scott says, talking of rules, do you have a rule to control or stop people from using AI transcription tools and their own recordings, which could then see content popping up elsewhere outside of the community?
We don't allow, we just remove, if someone brings in a transcription tool into the community, we just remove it. Into the calls, we just remove it. And whoever's leading the call knows to do that. So we do that. People can't use, they can't access the recordings unless they screen recorded their own computer. They can't download the recordings. So we have them all stored in Google Drive, but there's a setting that you can, and then we embed them within the community, but there's a setting on Google Drive to stop people being able to download or save them themselves. So we have that turned on. So
And I suspect vetting people with shared values minimizes that for much of the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be likely to do that. We had one person that came in and tried to basically get as much as they could in a month of membership, and then kicked up a huge fuss and demanded a refund, saying he hadn't used it and he didn't want to use it. I was like, well, I can see the back end and I can see that you've watched all these masterclasses. I can see that you've asked for help. People have offered calls. So I'll give you 1 week back, but I'm not giving you a full refund. Our T's and C's were very firm, and it was just being a bit of a rude bully. And I was glad that he'd left, obviously, but that was the only person in recent times that slipped through the net and was obviously in there deliberately to try and get as much for free and then demand a refund. So I think there's always going to be the odd one, but the vast majority of people really are good, and they're not going to be able to use that content to make money because it's your IP. And I'm assuming I have ownership of everything created within the community is owned by me. It doesn't matter who created it, I own it. So so yeah, I don't think that that's very likely to happen.
Good. Right, let's do, if anybody's got any more final questions for Lea, put them in the chat or the Q&A. Abby, could you talk about our webinar next month, please? That's okay. Everybody should be able to see the screen there and the QR code.
I think I can, thank you. So now that everybody's aware of Lea, aware of the whole, what are you going to do? You're going to go and Google her, and then you're going to go and have a look at her website. And if you are a small business owner who isn't a knob and has all of the values that Lea is looking for, then the website will appeal to you, and then you might get in touch because it will impress. But can you say the same about your website? We've been asking that question a lot, been doing a lot of digging, and it turns out there's quite a lot of websites that could be a lot more effective in terms of attracting your ideal clients. So the very brave Ian, Alifa and Paul at 3 financial planning firms that you will be familiar with. If you scan the QR code, you'll see the businesses, but they have bravely agreed to let us review their websites live on air next month. So we'll be having a look at what they're doing really well, what they could do to improve, how to spot what's working and what's not on your own website, and you'll come away with loads of practical ideas of how you can improve your site. So have a scan of the QR code on there. I did check it this morning. Hopefully it works. Let me know if not. The link will be in the follow-up email anyway. But yeah, have a look, register, 21st of May, 10 a.m. Paul, Alifa and Ian will be on the call with us, we hope. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it. It's a first, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, should be a good one.
Thank you, Abby. Right, Dan, over to you. Any final questions for Lea to wrap up?
Just one comment from Jacob, who says, I don't think I'm a knob, but I guess it depends on who you ask. I'm sure you're not a knob, Jacob. But no, that's it. Thank you for everyone that added questions and comments in there. It's been a really engaged session.
Been really great. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, if anyone's got any other questions, please do feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. We don't need to be connected. You should be able to just send me a DM. So happy to have a chat about it.
And Leah, thanks for doing this for us. Thanks for spending the hour with us. We've had some fantastic feedback in the chat. It's the first Bonnie Tyler mention we've ever had on a Yardstick webinar, so that's a big box tick. Abby will be sending out a recording later on today. There'll be some additional links in there. We'll put the discount code to Heartbeat in there as well. Leah, just massive thanks for being here today and sharing your knowledge over the last hour. Dan, myself, Abby, and everybody on the call really appreciate it.
Welcome. Have a lovely day, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.